Now, if a question is asking you if something is a factor, basically, here's my 2d squared plus 6d minus 56. If it could be factored, it would look like this. And they're asking, is d minus 4 a factor? Well, if it were a factor, it would be one of those two. Now, considering our first one here and our last one here, if my first one's 2d squared, what has to go here? 2d. If my last one's 56 and I have a 4 here already, what has to be there? 14. And if it's going to be a negative 56 and I already have a negative 4, it would have to be plus 14. Correct? So let's check, because if d minus 4 is a correct factor, this has to be correct as well. Does that make sense? Now, if we check this by FOILing, we will get, because we'll get 2d squared, we'll get minus 56, because that's what we had planned around, our first and our last one. But when I look at my outside, I get plus 14d. When I look at my inside, can you see that I'm going to get minus 8d? And then if I subtract them, I get 2d squared plus 6d minus 56. Is that the same as we started with? Yes. So that means, yes, d minus 4 is a factor. Well, that's not spelled right. Factor. That looks. So when we check it and multiply it out, it works out to be exactly the same. These two are equal, and so we know it is a factor. And we've shown that it factors correctly. Example 1 here is actually an easier question than factoring, because they tell you one of the factors to check, and then it's really easy to find out what the other terms would be. So in part B here, now we have same thing, 3d squared plus 13d plus 4. And if you can factor this, it'd be a binomial, and they're saying, is d minus 4 a factor? So what would the first one have to be, and what would the last one have to be of the second factor if it's going to work? Has to be 3d and negative 1. So if my first ones are multiplied together, I'd get 3d squared. If my last ones are multiplied together, I'd get plus 4. If I check this and multiply it through, well, I know that I'm going to get 3d squared, because that's what I planned for my first ones. And my last ones, I know that I'm going to get a plus 4. When I check my outside, I have negative d. And if I check my inside, I have negative 12d. And when I simplify my like terms, is that the same as what we started with? No. No. So d minus 4 is not a factor. Okay, the questions you can do for this one are 7 and 8. And if you didn't do them from yesterday, I said the ones that you could practice for factoring were 3, 4, 5, and 6.